Hey, thanks for stopping by. If this is your first time here, Untitled Chapter is a pop culture podcast where we evaluate what African movies and TV shows show and tell us about society. The themes we commonly touch on are race, class, gender, and sexuality, all through a social justice lens. We pick out a movie or TV show that I enjoyed watching, and each week we cover a different theme before moving on to the next show. Currently, we're looking at drum rolls. Namaste Wahala. Namaste Wahala is a Nigerian romantic comedy that was released in 2021. It's the story of Chidinma, aka Didi, and Raj. Didi is a Nigerian lawyer, and Raj is an Indian investment banker or some money type thing like that. They meet in the cheesiest way you ever saw, fall in love, their parents crump their style by saying hell no, they fight, break up, cue a heartbreak montage to revel the best of them. Then sufficient time passes, things happen, and they make out. Hello, happily ever after, yay! Namaste Wahala will be a 6-part review. The 6 key themes we'll look at are 1. Fat girls and sex. 2. Capitalism and relationships, black tax in particular. 3. Capitalism and relationships, on succession in particular. 4. Gender and housework. 5. Violence against women. And 6. Relationships, love and romance. Hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed making it. Let's talk about gender and housework. Simone de Beauvoir, in The Second Sex, published in 1949, said, "Few tasks are more like the torture of Sisyphus than housework, with its endless repetition. The clean becomes soiled, the soiled is made clean, over and over, day after day." One of the things I'm interested in is the narratives that Namaste Wahala advances about gender and what makes a good woman a good woman. One of the things that stands out is the way good women are framed, especially as relates to housework. There'll be discussions on other elements that come up, but the work that women do in the home will be the primary focus in this one. For those who haven't watched the film, Didi has a fight with her dad, and so she leaves home and moves in with her boyfriend Raj, all of which would have been fun, except Raj's mother is in town and she and fun are mutually exclusive. Ignoring every sign that she should leave, Didi stays at Raj's house with him and his mother. At this point, nonsense ensues and unbelievable things are done. There's a scene where they compete, and I mean compete, to cook for Raj, who's at work. They're in the kitchen fighting over space and utensils and shit and trying to cook for Raj. I'd have played the clip for you, but the Namaste Wahala team was like, hell no. And then they reported me to YouTube, and YouTube was like, don't be playing this shit or you're going to be in real trouble, young lady. So, yeah. That scene was, I'm guessing, supposed to be comedic, but all it does is make me want to gag and or punch something at the thought of women competing to do housework for a man. Didi and Raj's mother are competing to cook for him and somehow, I guess, prove their worth as women and their value in his life or whatever. His mother cooks Indian food, which obviously delish, and Didi makes noodles. The reason Didi cooks, using the term cooks very loosely, the reason Didi cooks noodles for Raj is allegedly because he likes it. And I was just like, bitch, sit down. Here you have a bona fide Indian mom chef, and instead of calmly letting your boyfriend eat his mother's food that he must have definitely missed, you choose to cook noodles for him. Shit he could eat any time. Instead of sitting your ass down and enjoying delicious, authentic Indian food, you're trying to busybody and prove something. That's the behavior of a crazy person, if you ask me. If that was me, girl, I'd be quietly eating delicious Indian food, minding my own goddamn business. They can call me unfeminine if they want. I don't give a fuck. How weirdly structured is patriarchal society? At every turn, women are competing for men's attention and affection. I mean, Raj's mother, his mother, feels the need to compete with a woman he met barely 3 months ago. Like, what? Are you being serious right now? Respect yourself, lady. We see this narrative everywhere. Mothers-in-law hating their daughters-in-law because of a whole range of things, from competition for his real and perceived resources to the idea that the wife will now control him and turn him against his mother and family. I can't even with this pathetic logic where women are pitted against each other at every turn. Single women are in competition for the allegedly scarce resource that is marriageable men. Once married, the married women are constantly on high alert concerning predatory single women who want to steal their men. Once they have children, prized male children, They immediately get into some kind of war with the women these men choose to have relationships with. Can we all just calm the fuck down with this male obsession thing? Jesus Christ. Raja's mother refuses to let this black woman Indian man romance prosper, and so Raja's cousin Leela decides to come to the rescue. Leela comes to visit Raja's mother and try and get to the bottom of her opposition to the relationship. I'd play you the clip, but you remember what YouTube told me. In the scene, Raja's cousin Leela has come to talk to his mother to convince her that Nigerian women are good women. And Didi is a good girl who will make a good wife for Raj. There's a lot to unpack in their conversation, but I want us to start with housework. The idea that a good woman is the one who hasn't lost her femininity. She may be a high powered lawyer, a doctor, a CEO, all the fun stuff, but she still cooks for her man and does the feminine things. Earning big money hasn't led to her developing a psychological penis and accompanying penile behavior. This idea of women's value and perceived character being based on housework, unpaid housework, is sexist, barbaric, and dangerous. They compete to cook and clean for Raj, and the film makes it look like a humorous thing. There's nothing humorous about the fact that women all over the world are burdened with doing unpaid work in the home. It disproportionately falls on them, whether or not they have a partner. And in fact, heterosexual women with a male partner do more housework than their single and homosexual counterparts. Women undertake a whole range of unpaid labor, including housework and things like working in the farm in rural areas. By far the largest source of women's unpaid labor is domestic work, aka housework. Domestic work refers to all the work required to maintain a household. It includes cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, and taking care of children, the sick, and the elderly. It may include collecting firewood and water. This endless labor is not just physical, it's emotional and mental as well. It has negative effects on women's physical health, mental health, and overall well being. So it's not a joke. A 2019 study found that women consistently do more domestic work than men. In fact, married women with children do more housework than single mothers. Married women sleep less and have less leisure time than single mothers as well. You have to ask yourself, why? Is it that having an extra adult in the house increases the amount of work to be done? Nope. It turns out that when women live with adult relatives of the female persuasion, they end up doing less housework. Is it because the men are working outside the home and the women are stay-at-home moms? Regardless of whether or not they're employed outside the home, women tend to do more of the feminine-coded housework, including laundry, cleaning, meal preparation, and taking care of the children. And men continue to do their thing too. Yard work, vehicle care, chasing the occasional spiders and rodents. Yay! It actually gets worse for married women working outside the home. Studies show that in heterosexual households where the woman is the main breadwinner, the more she earns, the less her partner will contribute to the housework. I don't know what math that is, but there you have it. That is what all the successful female African doctors, lawyers, and businesswomen have to contend with. Yay, progress. So it's not the presence of an extra adult, and it's not the fact that women are working in the home and men outside the home that's caused the burden of housework to be borne by women. So what is it then? All we're left with is patriarchy is trash, gender roles are sexist nonsense, and men, well, they're trash. It's obviously a male problem because a long time ago, the Council of Patriarchy sat down and decided that women are more naturally suited to certain jobs. Those jobs being cooking daily, cleaning endlessly, caring for children, and doing everything required to keep the home running day to day. It's long been ingrained in women that the home is a reflection and extension of them. A good woman is one who does all the necessary things on the home front. One of the reasons floated for why married women do more housework than single women is the pressure to perform what society considers appropriate behavior for good wives and mothers. Somehow, when you're paired up with a man, there's a heightened expectation to perform gender even more, and men are reaping all the benefits while contributing jack shit in the way of domestic labor. In fact, research shows that when it appears that the gap between domestic labor is being closed, it's usually because women abandon some chores completely, not because men are picking up the slack. So, on the one hand, you have Didi competing with Raj's mother to prove that she's a good feminine woman who can take care of her son by engaging in unpaid housework in the form of cooking. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, in their massive mansion, her own mother has a domestic worker, a servant to do a significant chunk of that labor for her. Even when women are successful and manage to get themselves out of the endless cycle of work that is domestic labor, it is almost always another woman who takes her place and for meager pay. Domestic workers are paid poverty wages because housework, aka women's work, is devalued and not even viewed as real exacting work. I mean, if children can be compelled to do it, how hard can it really be? This is a reflection of all the ways society devalues women and everything that is even remotely considered feminine. This is why men don't do domestic work. It's women's work and therefore beneath them. They are more suited to important manly work like yard work and taking the car to the garage. Until we begin to value women and women's contribution, housework will not be valued, and women will continue to bear that burden largely alone. We forget that it is domestic labor that makes all other labor outside the home possible. It is crucial for our health and overall well being. It is crucial for the survival of society and the economy. The fact that things are running in the home is what makes it possible for people to go out and get other things out there running as well. Part of what really pissed me off about that whole competing to cook for Raj scene is the fact that earlier his mother had asked him who took care of him. And he said he takes care of himself and cooks for himself. There was something really wonderful about that interaction, about Raj saying, I don't need somebody to cook for me to perform this labor. I do it myself. I sustain myself. I don't know why this film actively chose to water that down. That whole interaction where Raj's mother is told that Nigerian women haven't lost their femininity, not even the high-powered ones, pissed me the fuck off from start to finish. First of all, there's something really racist about needing to be told that Nigerian women or any ethnic group of women are good and worthy. Like, you need to be reminded about their humanity. To have an Indian telling another Indian that, ew, just leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Then there's the women who are mentioned as worthy. The successful women, the lawyers, doctors, businesswomen. What would have happened if Didi was not from that class of wealthy, successful women? What if she was a fat, unemployed woman who just sat along with Raj and enjoyed eating Indian food instead of competing to prove her womanhood by cooking noodles? Would she not have been a worthy woman? We live in a culture in which achievement and wealth somehow confer morality and goodness, which is nuts. It's also a dangerous argument in a world in which inequality is growing and more wealth is hoarded in fewer and fewer hands. When we should be thinking it the rich, we're instead conferring morality and goodness to the people who have somehow figured out how to make a brutal and equal system work for them and as a result have no interest in overhauling it. After that discussion, they go to the NGO and watch Didi doing something with the women. Something which I've watched several times and can confirm with certainty cannot be explained, mainly because it's just filler nonsense. Anyway, seeing her with the women the NGO is helping serves to confirm to her that she is one of the good ones in Raj's mother's eyes. And now Raj's mother finally approves of that union. She literally has to be convinced that Nigerian women are women, just like any other, that they are successful and haven't lost their femininity. Then she has to go see Didi at work for her to go like, okay, I approve. She's worthy of my son. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, do you know what hoops Raj had to jump through to be proven worthy of Didi? I'll tell you. It'll be quick. Didi cried and told her mother she loves Raj and reminded her mother that her father fought for their love as well. That was that. Her mother was like, okay, all Didi had to do was cry and tell her mother she missed Raj. There was no investigation of his qualities as a man and ability to care for her, whatever. No need to be convinced about the virtues and humanity of all Indian men. No tour of him at work. None of that. Because somehow, I guess men don't have to prove themselves worthy in the ways women do. It's something about dick that just immediately makes you worthy and qualified for shit. I also read more racist undertones here. African women have to be proven worthy, and nobody feels the need to defend the humanity of Indian people as a whole, of Indian men. Another thing that pissed me off, that I only picked up on much later on, was the way Housework was framed differently for Angie and Didi. Angie is Didi's fat best friend, carrying on in the fat best friend trope that is as old as the movies. Don't worry, we'll dive into the treatment of the fat best friend somewhere in this clip. Right at the beginning of the film, one of the first scenes we see Angie in is her wailing in her apartment after getting dumped by her boyfriend, who apparently thought they were just friends with benefits. Angie has a long list of complaints talking about all the things she did for him. Chief among her complaints are 1, she cooked for him, 2, she paid his bills, 3, she sent his mother money, and 4, she engaged in lots of acrobatic sex with him. I cover the sex bit in the Fat Best Friend section as well. For now, let's talk about the cooking for him. When Didi does it, it's framed as good and feminine, yet when Angie does it, it's not. One of the reasons for this is the fact that women are discouraged from doing wifely duties for men who haven't wifed them. Yet Didi isn't married either, so why is it right in her case and wrong in Angie's case? I guess the argument can be made that Raj wants to marry Didi, but Angie's fella said no such thing. Even if this is the case, men become deserving of and entitled to women's labor through marriage. Is that really the lesson here? If he marries you or promises to marry you, then you get to perform unpaid labor for him? It's all about putting a ring on it, is it? That's some bullshit. I think the film suggests that good, serious men who are committed to you and want to marry you deserve your labor, have earned your labor. It also suggests that Angie does not have good judgment and she's just philandering out here, giving her labor and sexual goodies to everyone, not the deserving few. There's fat phobia somewhere there. I just know it. Regardless of what society insists on telling us, women are not worthy or valuable because of their ability to perform gender as society has structured it. My personal thing is, I will only be in a relationship with somebody who is my partner. If they don't do housework, a substantive amount of housework, then they're not my partner. They may be my boyfriend, a husband even. I don't know. But they're not my partner, and I'm only interested in going through life with a partner. So, this bit's one made for walking. And that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. I'd like to close with the words of the revolutionary Thomas Sankara on women and unpaid labor in the home. In his book, Women's Liberation and the African Freedom Struggle, which is a transcription of a speech he gave, he said some radical things about women's position in society, especially as pertains to marriage and labor. Talking about men exploiting women, he says, quote, women became the booty, his conquest and trade. He profited from their labor power and took his fill from the myriad of pleasures they afforded him. Of women, he says, quote, relegated to the role of child raiser and servant, woman shared the lot of a slave, who in slave society was nothing more than a beast of burden with a human face. He talks about how little girls are forced very early on into this labor when boys their age are still allowed to play and enjoy their childhood. Quote, she, the little girl, with little ceremony, will enter into production. She already has a trade, assistant, housewife. It is an occupation without pay since, as is generally said, a housewife does nothing. She will pay a heavy price for having been born female. On housework, he says, quote, and what about housework? This all-consuming, brutalizing work that has a tendency to turn you women into robots and leave no time or energy to think. This is why we need resolute action directed towards men and at implementing at a large scale networks of social services such as nurseries, daycare centers, and cafeterias. This would allow women to more easily take part in revolutionary debate and action. Men and women will from now on share all the tasks in the home. This was Burkina Faso in the 80s, with Thomas Sankara saying men and women will from now on share all the tasks in the home. There is no revolution without the liberation of women. Long live Thomas Sankara, long live. There is no revolution without the liberation of women. Long live Thomas Sankara, long live. Until next time, guys, remember who you are. Love life. Love people. Stay lonely.